Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest-running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasevich.
Welcome everyone to Social Chatter, your weekly social media marketing news talk show. This is episode 225. Got to say, it's good to be back. I have been out for quite a while, partly with the holidays and travel and vacation, but also, with that, you sometimes bring back some unwanted visitors, some unwanted souvenirs, basically. So I've been out sick, actually, for the past few weeks. And it's, I got to say, it's hard when you're trying to run an online business. It's definitely difficult. You're always like, well, hey, I want to move forward, but then you're not quite up to it. This was definitely one of those cases. Jem was co-hosting this week with us. He and I definitely were in contact, and things were not going to happen as much as we wanted them to. So what we did was we canceled a couple of shows, and we're back. I'm excited though. This week we've got Jem Fuse filling in for Phil. Just for a few weeks here, and then we're also bringing on new guests this year. Actually, we've got Amanda Webb from Spiderworking. I think we've actually met in person a few times actually, but I'm going to go ahead and bring on Jem. Jem, how are you doing?
Great. How are you doing? It's a rainy, cold day here in Marietta. They're actually talking about freezing rain, so it's nice to be inside. It's nice to be joining you, and glad to see that you're doing better, because I know there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now as far as
definitely
viruses.
Is. Yes. And I guess that's one good thing if you are online, when you're doing your networking online. One great thing is you're not passing any viruses or getting anyone sick.
Yes.
But the thing is also just being able to have the energy to actually be live on camera, because it can be a tough task to begin with if you're not comfortable with being live. But again, push through, try as much as you can to go live as often as you can, just be out there. So who do we have this week? So we have Amanda Webb. I think you've had her maybe on your show before.
Well, I haven't had Amanda on yet,
okay.
But definitely she's going to be on this year. But Amanda and I got to actually meet and hang out with her and the entourage from across the pond at Social Media Marketing World 19. And so Amanda is the owner of Spiderworks, and she works on helping savvy business owners and marketers with their online strategies. So excited to see
Very cool.
her.
So it's fantastic to have you, Amanda. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, like Jim, it's freezing
Yeah.
where I am.
It's cold here too. I got the scarf on. This isn't just for show. It is cold. So, do you want to take maybe just maybe 30 seconds, tell viewers about yourself, what you do, maybe the best way to get in touch with you, and then we'll kick things off.
Yeah, I'm Amanda Webb. I work with you if you are I call savvy marketers, people who've kind of they know how Facebook works, they know how Twitter works, they've got all the little strands of what they're doing. But I think very often when you're doing that, you feel this dread that you're wasting time. So what I do is I work with businesses to help them bring all the strands together into a cohesive strategy, which really focuses on having a smooth line, so you can see that what you're doing is actually worthwhile. You'll never feel like you're wasting time or money again if you work with me.
Fantastic. And I guess the key thing also is, maybe this is how you came up with the name, but if a spider is building a web, they're building all these various points, and trying to connect all those pieces together. Maybe is that kind of how you came up with the name?
That isn't, but that's brilliant. I just came up with the name because my second name was Webb and I couldn't get amandawebb.com. So I just kept searching further and further away from it.
Very cool. Well, now you have a story.
But now I love that. I'm totally going to use that.
I thought that's why she came up with it too, Christian. I had no idea that wasn't why she came up with it.
But this is great. Yeah. That's the great thing about meeting people, just having conversations. They help bring about other conversations and whatnot. So I'm ready to start talking about what's new this week in social media. Jem, where do you want to start?
Let's start with Instagram TV.
So what do we have going on here?
So it was fascinating. I think they said only 1% of people have downloaded the Instagram TV app, and they had the little button in the actual app. So what they do? They did away with it, and now you have to, I guess, go download the app. I mean, I partially think that is this somewhat a sign of surrender? I mean, what do you think, Amanda?
Actually, I was investigating this yesterday because it seemed really odd. So you used to be able to upload to Instagram using that, but to Instagram stories using that. No, not stories. IGTV. Jeez, they have so many different little bits. How am I supposed to remember? IGTV using that button. And that was my first concern. How am I going to upload? So what's really interesting now is if you go into the app and you try and upload a video, you can upload a video up to 10 minutes. And when you go to publish it, it gives you the option. Do you want a short clip of it on your feed, or do you want this to go to IGTV? And of course, people who use Creator Studio within Business Manager can already upload from the web. For viewing, though, that's the big thing. Are they still going to push people to view those? I mean, we know they've made some changes recently where you could have series, where now you can have horizontal videos. I don't think they're ready to give up on this product. I think they're just rethinking how people might access it. So will it be a case of you have to see the video clip in the feed or the story and then go through to IGTV? It's going to be interesting to see.
Right. I'm like with you. I don't think they've given up on it, but then again, it's hard to believe. I think it's been over a year and a half since they initially launched it. And there's still a ton of people that don't really understand that it's out there. I think stories is obviously become a much bigger thing, but I don't know. And then of course, you have Facebook Watch, and they own both, and they keep combining all these platforms. It's pretty fascinating. I mean, have you used it much?
I did when it first came out, and I'd heard there'd been a bit of traction from kind of Instagram specialists were saying one of the ways that you can make sure your stuff is getting seen is by using all the Instagram products, including IGTV. So I had a look at it again, didn't upload anything. So I've done nothing since I could do horizontal, but I have had clients who've been using it. And again, it's not massive views, but again, you don't get massive views on YouTube. So if this is to actually be competition to YouTube, which was, I think, what they were thinking when it first came out. I mean, it's only really the big YouTubers that get lots of views, or if you hit lucky from an SEO point of view. And that's something I'm not sure matters on Instagram. So I think they do need to rethink how they're going to do this. Should it be on Instagram at all? Should it be something different?
And you brought up a good point, and something that just took me all this time to figure out. But the fact is, with YouTube, if you get enough subscribers and viewers, you actually can monetize, where I don't really know that there's a way to monetize Instagram TV other than if you're, in theory, an influencer. And I wonder if that's the other thing that has kept people from saying, well, why should I get on Instagram TV? I should just focus on building a YouTube channel.
And it's almost like a chicken and an egg thing, though. So until they get the traction, because creators can monetize on Facebook. There's stickers and all sorts once you become big and you're a proper creator and they recognize you. I'm not sure if that's spilled into Instagram actually, because it's not something I've been investigating. But until they get the traction, that number of views, you're not going to make any money out of it anyway, are you? So I know even the influencers in the early days were struggling to get anyone to watch their videos.
Right.
Well, hey, by the way, guys, I'm back. Sorry, I had a little technical glitch. So I'm not sure what happened. I went to go share the screen, and maybe they didn't want me to share Instagram TV. My computer just went like, okay, we're done for today. So I have to say on this, joining on the tail end, I think the one thing with, at least like, for example, IGTV, everybody's always talking about like, well, let's monetize. Like everybody's always talking about monetization first. And I'm like, you don't, like, to your point, Amanda, like people don't have the audience for the most part. They don't have the viewership. They don't have people tuning in. They're not watching the content. So that tells me like maybe your content isn't good to begin with. And you need to really start at square one and say, hey, you know what? I'm not, like, tell yourself I'm not an influencer, because you're not an influencer when you first start, just because you have a channel, big deal. You have to build up that audience, and get those people to want to watch your content. And so like with IGTV, I mean, one of the biggest problems I saw, at least when it started, was that the people that were influencers on Instagram, they were not actually creating good content for IGTV. It was, like just regurgitating something that was already on their other channels. And that is the one big problem when you have all these social media channels, that people don't take the content and remix it properly. They just slap something else up on the other channel that's the same thing on the other channel that you already have. There's no need for people to follow along at that point. So
it's a big problem for businesses, though, isn't it? It's always going to be there. You can't be everywhere. And I think that's one of the reasons I tried it out when it came out, because obviously I'm in digital marketing. I need to know how things work. Mm-hmm. But until that takes off big time, there's no point me plowing a whole lot of time creating videos specifically for IGTV if my customers aren't watching it. And until they get the numbers actually watching IGTV, it's going to be a waste of my time. And I'm going to say for most businesses, it's going to be a waste of time spending time creating for IGTV.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. It partly comes down to this, like you need to talk to your customers first and ask them what platforms they spend the most time on. I can guarantee you most of them are going to say they spend time on Facebook. They might use Instagram a little bit, and they're not going to use Twitter. They might use YouTube for watching like how-to videos, things like that. So like if I'm a business, what I need to do is I need to actually ask those hard questions of my customers. And then I need to, go back and craft my content to meet those customers where they are at. And I think that one of the biggest problems also, in digital marketing overall is there are too many people giving poor information, like telling people, hey, you have to be everywhere. And it's like, no, you don't have to be on every channel.
Because you can't be.
No, exactly. You cannot keep up.
And you can't do it well. I think you're better off like sticking with the tried and tested channels. And like I say, if everyone's doing the same with TikTok at the moment, everyone wants to be on TikTok. It's like, yeah, no, not really. Have you thought about how that's going to deliver traffic or deliver sales to your business? It's not necessarily the right channel. Stick with, maybe focus a little bit harder on one of the other channels you're using instead.
Mm-hmm. Jim, what do you think?
No, I think Amanda hit on a great point there as well. I mean, the earlier slide even showed that TikTok had 80 times more like downloads, and it's kind of like, kind of goes back to like, but what are you really going to do with it? Just because it's like, I call it we used to have this in the military. Sometimes we call it the shiny object syndrome, right? The boss wants, oh, I saw this, I got to have this. Oh, it's TikTok, I got to have this. Oh, I got it, and oh, I'm great. I've got all these viewers on TikTok. Okay, so what? And now that makes you're a TikTok influencer. I don't remember the name. It's like this young person had become a TikTok influencer. Now all of a sudden they're on LinkedIn because, oh, well, I'm a TikTok influencer. It's like, okay, but what do you really know about business?
Exactly. And it really comes down to this. I mean, like you have to look at your business and say, okay, what can I physically actually do on a daily basis? So for example, if I'm the solopreneur and I'm doing every possible thing in my business and managing my social media channels and, and probably maybe not really creating much content, but trying to, my goal should be to sell product, to, get services, to get people to come in. It's not about like, oh, let me entertain people on social media just so I get a whole bunch of views or I get a whole bunch of people to follow me, because that doesn't people aren't gonna be like, well, hey, let me go work with that small business just because they've got a lot of people, viewing the content, because,
they may not even see them. That's the thing. Yeah. You're busy becoming massive on TikTok, and none of your customers are looking at TikTok. If they are, they're just monitoring what their kids are doing.
Right. So, and so with that, I think like the fact that Instagram is dropping the IGTV button, it's not that big of a deal. I think if you haven't invested into IGTV yet, you have to ask the question. The first question should be, like, is this where my audience is at? And then you need to ask the question of, okay, great, this is where my audience is at. What kind of content are they consuming? And then look at the channels that other people are that they're, watching, and see if there are things there that you might be able to implement on your channel to get the audience interested.
And I think too, Christian, just to emphasize a point you brought up earlier, when you talk about content creation, and I had this conversation with a potential client the other day.
Yep.
They're a roofing contractor, and they're, it's like, where do people go look first to find a roofing contractor? They go to Google. Well, Google owns YouTube, the second biggest search engine after Google. So if you don't have content out there that's going to drive people to wherever it is you want them to go, your website, your Facebook page, whatever, they're not going to go into the search bar on Facebook or the search bar on Instagram and say roofing contractor. Right. So I think, sometimes it goes back to fundamentals. And do you have content, or are you just throwing stuff out there?
Definitely. Any last tips on this one, Amanda, before we switch gears?
No, I think we've got it covered. It is worth keeping an eye on what Instagram are doing. I think partly, I think a reason a lot of people are not getting excited about Instagram anymore is they're trying to do too much. They're becoming too much like Facebook. So I think we need to keep an eye on that as well, particularly if we've chosen it as one of our key channels, is to just keep an eye on the behavior of the people that are there.
Definitely. So, Jem, where we go next?
Let's go to Facebook and talk about their new attempt at, was it live shopping?
So what do we have going on here, by the way?
So it looks like they're trying to develop more for their app, right? They bought a live video shopping to marketplace. So I guess the question becomes, will businesses be able to use the marketplace? Because right now it's basically individuals, almost along the lines of the garage sale. I mean, what do you think, Amanda?
I'm kind of excited about this feature because I know a lot of people who are using, until I see it in action, I won't know am I right. So if somebody's watching this after it's been launched, I could be talking rubbish, but what I envisage is going to be, it's going to make it a lot easier for me to like set up a live video stream and say, oh, you can buy this product, and maybe it will appear on the screen and people can click and buy it. Now, I've only scanned through this article to see what it does, but I think that's quite an exciting prospect because I know a lot of people do use Facebook Live to sell product, and have pretty good success. So I think by enabling more people to do that, Facebook is trying to keep us small businesses happy, basically, and keep us on channel. Look, we're enabling a new way that you can sell your products. So I know people are doing this already, but if it's putting that in the mind of other small businesses, I think it could be a good thing. It could also be a bad thing because those live streams could be awful, really boring sales pitches. What do you think?
Really? People would try to sales pitch on social media. I've never heard of that.
Here in Europe, we are very sensitive to sales pitches. So if even a sniff of a sales pitch, everyone gets a little bit cynical. I don't know what it's like there.
It's definitely getting that way. But I think you bring up an excellent point. And I also wonder, because as they develop the ecosystem of combining all their messaging apps into one, and of course, I know the other thing was they decided to not allow ads to go into WhatsApp. So, because I know WhatsApp is huge in Europe, that was probably part of like the outcry of like, have you lost your minds? So, I think as they continue to try to be this closed system, and I think you hit it on a little bit earlier too, Amanda, and I will just say it. I've said it before. I'm not a fan of people, in a sense. Facebook's trying to be all things to all people. And I think when you attempt to do that you're going to fail at certain things because you're not focused on your one thing. And so I think it could be a good thing, but I also think it gets where Facebook is too noisy and you don't even know where to go, right? Am I supposed to go to a group? Am I supposed to go to a page? Am I supposed to, create, get on watch? I mean, it becomes overwhelming for a small business owner.
It does, yeah.
Here's the thing. I like the idea of having the ability to do, live shopping from Facebook. This reminds me of features that already exist on YouTube for certain channels. They have a merch shelf that people can, add to their channel if they have the requirements, and sell some products directly through there. I think that's a brilliant idea. And that is something that Facebook does need, the ability to do some live shopping. I think part of it, though, comes down to just the quality of the live videos. I mean, I think that there are, for every case of like somebody who's really successful selling through Facebook Live, I think there are a lot of people that they're good at it, or they know how to make it work. and that comes down to like the quality of the show as well that people are producing. I think when you start talking, for example, like QVC, like Jim, this is something you and I talk a lot about live video. You start talking about like shows like QVC. Are you familiar with QVC, Amanda?
Yes.
Okay. So like, that is a show that is, you have a production team behind the scenes that is running a lot of things. You've got then a person on camera. When you try to put this into the perspective of like the solopreneur or the small business, it's hard because you can't do everything all at once. And this kind of goes back to, I guess, the point we were making on the last topic, which is you can't be on every platform at once. You can't be trying to run your show and sell products also at once. There needs to be some additional way. It's almost like you need to have an assistant in your business that is running one part and you are running another part, for example. I like this idea. I wish that, I really hope that I want to see Facebook succeed with this. But I think at the same time, they need to, in a way, almost scale things back a little bit and educate the consumer more on how live video actually works and how it's something that they can like get a lot of value out of. I think a lot of people, the bar is so low, they just start doing it. And some people happen upon success and some people really struggle with it, I think.
Right. And I even think you bring up another great point. Sometimes when you talk to folks, especially like even like these younger kids, right? They're like, oh, these people have a YouTube channel and they're making all this money and that's what I want to do. But it's like they don't understand the fundamentals of business and they don't understand that they have to have a true product or service that there's a demand for. They don't think about, doing the surveying and everything else to see if there's even a need in the market. And then it's like, well, I tried it. Nobody bought my stuff. And it's like, but you didn't really do the research. You don't just, it's kind of almost like the field of dreams. Like if you build it, they will come. That's not always the case on the digital platforms. And I think, you could probably say there's a wasteland of Facebook business pages of businesses that no longer exist.
Definitely.
True.
Do you have any tips, by the way, Amanda? Like, and I think you mentioned that you've had some businesses you've worked with that have been successful selling through Facebook Live.
So there's an example that every conference you go to in the UK, I'm based in Ireland, so I'm right next door. So I pop over there occasionally. They talk about, and I wish I knew the name of the woman, this woman who sells handbags. And I think she was homeless at the time. Like she wasn't living on the street. She was like, staying with friends. Mm-hmm. And she set up this Facebook Live to sell her handbags. And I don't know, I haven't seen the live. It's just one of those legends that gets talked about. And she made thousands in sales on that one Facebook Live. And she's continued to do that over time. So, she's no longer living with friends. She has her own place now. So it really got her. It's such a good news story because somebody that was right at the end of everything they could do. It was one of those miracles. It just worked for her. Now, I think that's part of it. You have to be good on camera. You have to be like you overuse the word authentic. I don't think that's right. I'm partly authentic because you see part of who I am when I'm online or at a business conference or whatever. Obviously, I'm not going to go and tell you my whole life story, but I do think if you can make that connection with people through a lens, it makes a really big difference. And obviously, that's what she had. She did it.
Definitely. And that's the thing. Like, I think part of it is, I think in a way we set the bar too far out. Or maybe too high, but I'm thinking more in the distance. Like, we think like, well, hey, I'm going to use the standard example. I'm a coffee business. And we immediately jump to like Starbucks as the gold standard that somebody thinks they want to be, if they run a coffee shop. And it's like, well, no, you're not a Starbucks. Starbucks didn't go from, where they currently, like, they didn't go from ground floor to where they're currently at, in a matter of like a week or a month or even a couple of years. They had to work to get there. And you could say that about just about any major brand that you see, that you shop, that you represent, that you wear, for example. And I think you need to scale it back and say, well, hey, okay, I'm not a Starbucks. Who else do I aspire to be like? And it's not about the dollars. That's the other problem. I think a lot of people look at it as like, they look at it as like, well, hey, I want to make millions of dollars. It's like, well, what's this other coffee shop doing? For example, like, they seem to be doing really well in the industry in the space in your region. What are they doing? Maybe talk to them and see where they found their success versus let me try to like aspire to be, this huge company that has tons of people working for it, that obviously like kind of got in at the right time, versus like, hey, they just started, because they didn't just start a coffee business and all of a sudden poof, like it's like it's blown up. They started a coffee business and then they've worked at it throughout, how long Starbucks been around, I think, but like the decades to get there. So I think that definitely part of it is like changing the scale, changing the goalpost, making it a little bit closer, a little more attainable. Jem, any thoughts?
No, I think you're right on the money with that. I mean, I agree with what Amanda's saying. I mean, I do have a friend that in the past, his wife, they were doing it's called LuLaRoe. That's like a clothing thing, and I think they were selling a lot live, but I think they were doing it in a group.
Yes, I've heard this story. Yes.
Yeah. But then when they were, it's like, well, we're trying to do it on a page, but we're really having a problem scaling. It's like, that's because you're going to have to run ads and other things to get in front of people. But when you got that group, it seems like people are more captured. We're trying to do it on a page, but we're really having a problem scaling. It's
Groups
like, that's because you're going to have to run ads.
No, I definitely agree with you, Jim, on the groups aspect. I mean, tapping into the group versus trying to do things through a page. Groups, the one thing groups have is they have the community built in. Like if you bring together like-minded people that are interested in the topic in a group, they're going to be a lot more vocal. They're going to feel like, hey, you know what? I get to know people more, versus if I'm on a page, I really don't know anyone that's there. It's just like, hey, I planted my for sale sign or my open for business sign. So anything else you want to add on this feature? I mean, again, it's not anything that Facebook has implemented into what Facebook Live yet, but they did acquire this company, this 5-person company, to basically help make Facebook Lives a little more like QVC, which, again, you can do that without this tool, but it hopefully will make it easier, I think, in the years to come.
We do know as well that Facebook are looking at, I know things get rolled out at different times, but they're looking at actually being able to do the whole sales process within Facebook rather than having to send you to the website to check out. Right. So I'm wondering, will all this integrate together? I'm a big fan of having a website. I think everyone should have a website, but obviously Facebook wants people to stay there. So for businesses, having this option available might be really good. That they can watch you live. And definitely when it comes out, I'm going to recommend it to some of my e-commerce clients. I think it's a really good way for them to be able to showcase more of what they do rather than just, clothes or products on a website.
Right, definitely. And that gets back to like, it is very important for a business to have its own website, to have its own presence, because as Jim mentioned, people don't go to Facebook, they don't go to Instagram and look up a roofing company, but hey, they might go to Google and look for something. So they might find you talking about, maybe answering a question, for example, how to pick the right kind of, roofing tiles, for example. That might be a question that you answer. That's not necessarily something somebody's going to go to Facebook to look for, and so that's where having a website will be extremely important, because your content can come up. If you're going to have YouTube content, again, same thing. The YouTube video can come up either through a Google search, or it can get recommended to people based on what they're viewing on YouTube as well, if they want to go there and get, another roofing company to give them a comparison. So it's about meeting your customers where they're at. They're not on Facebook and they're not on Instagram looking for, those questions necessarily. They may go there for customer support, but they're not there to get the hard answers. So having your website, definitely important. Again, also depends on the part of the world you're in. You also have to look at, the culture. Jen, you and I talk about this quite a bit. People in the States, they have websites for their business. Where I'm currently at, they do not have websites for their business. Everything is conducted through social media and through WhatsApp as their primary means of like A, communicating, and B, driving sales. So they don't necessarily care about, having some of that overhead. But the people that do tap into it, they can definitely take advantage of it. So with that, Jim, where do you want to go next? We've talked Instagram, we talked Facebook.
Do we want to go to talking about green screens?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk, okay. So what's a green screen? I want to make sure we cover this. I mean, I know what it is. I know you all definitely know what they are, but what's a green screen? Why does it matter to viewers?
Amanda, let's have you talk because I know you're big with
Yeah.
this.
So I wanted to talk about this. I'm excited about this. I think StreamYard is bringing in green screens, right? Which is exciting, and a lot of people get really excited about. Now, I come from a film and television background, so we would have used green screens. And I suppose the first thing is that example you have on the screen is typical of a really badly put together green screen. I love it. I love it. So the problem with green screens is what green screen does is basically the camera will recognize the color in the green screen and replace it with an image or a video of your choosing. So where I'm sitting in my office now, I could make it look like I was sitting in a really cool workspace and have the green screen in the background, and you look at there'd be loads of desks and people working behind me. Like you see on TV news, sometimes that could be a green screen. Or I could be in a field, or I could be anywhere I want to be. So people get excited about that. The reason I'm throwing caution to this is in the image you can see on your screen, you can see the shadow of the guy who's in front of the green screen.
Okay.
And that's the problem. It's really hard to light your green screen so that the camera picks up the exact green tone. It has to be really flatly lit. So that shadow is going to make that sort of fuzzy. Sometimes you'll see like a fuzzy line on a picture. It's going to be because it's not quite the right color of green, so it won't quite replace it. So the first rule of a green screen is to make sure there's a distance between you and the green screen so that your shadow doesn't show on it. That's really important.
So how far is that? Is it like, for example, I've got a background behind me, obviously I have different lighting. Is it, like I'm a foot off the background? Am I 2 feet? Am I 3 feet?
I would be looking 3 or 4 feet away, but it really depends on your lighting on yourself. So the first thing you want to do is light yourself and see where your shadow falls.
Okay, got it.
You can actually eliminate the shadow with lighting as well. So you need to get just this solid light. You can't have any kind of variations in light. And that's the really hard bit. There are lights out there that are specifically designed to do this, but just keep an eye on it. And it can take quite a bit of tweaking, but the effect is brilliant when you get it. It is really great. I mean, you'd see it on TV and films all the time and not even know it was there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and from a lighting perspective, like it's not about like, oh, I have I'll give you an example. A desk lamp is not going to be enough light.
No.
Desk lamp, that's not going to be enough. If you have like a ceiling fan with a light that comes down, your standard ceiling fan with like 4 light bulbs, that's not going to be enough either. You have to light the entire scene. So it's like I have to hit you in the front, and when I hit you in the front, okay, that's going to create a shadow behind me. Then I need side lights that are going to fill that gap in as well. Again, also the same color, typically the same, equidistant like lighting as well. So that
I have lights going on here.
like for example, right now I've got a ring light here in front that's giving me nice like even light.
Yeah. Outside would be ideal. I have a plan for I'm getting a green screen because another thing that you could do with a green screen is, on Instagram, the animated GIF stickers that are like real people.
Yeah.
You could actually take the background out of an image with the green screen and turn it into an animated GIF. So this is my plan, but I've decided instead of buying loads of lights and trying to squeeze them into my tiny office, that I'll wait until it's summer, go out at 12 o'clock when we've got the flattest light, the flattest possible light you can have. And that would be the perfect place to shoot. So if you're living somewhere warmer than us, or if you want to wait until spring or summer, that would be the perfect way to shoot on green screen. But obviously that's not going to work on a show like this because we need computers and things.
Exactly. And so, so with this this announcement, this is StreamYard. It's actually the platform we use to produce the show. If you want to try it, socialchefs.com/go/StreamYard. That'll get you a trial of StreamYard. But with this, so like what I really like about this is the fact that this is a browser-based piece of software. And now, if you have the correct lighting, you can quickly remove the background and replace it. So, for example, in my background, I have a step and repeat background. Jem, you have, I think, is that an IKEA background, or is that?
It's a brick wall, vinyl brick wall I got from Amazon for about $20 and
about $20 background. And then Amanda is actually in her office, right?
Which looks huge, doesn't it? People always get surprised when they arrive. It's really tiny.
So she has her office. So like, here's the different ways you could use this. So for example, if you run multiple businesses, having a green screen is a great way to, for example, I wouldn't have to have multiple backgrounds. I could just replace it with an image if I wanted to. In Jim's case, if he wanted to, in this case, it looks like he's in a cool, hip like office in like Chicago or New York. He could go and he could replace that background with maybe a video, for example, a looping video of somebody walking back, and forth, or people walking back in an office to make it look like he's actually in a really swanky office. In addition to that, if I'm Amanda here, like Amanda, in her case, like her situation works, but at the same time, she might be like, well, hey, you know what? Every time I go live on video, I have to always remove all this stuff behind me. When you put a green screen up, it basically, is a blank slate and you can make it whatever you want. It could just be a static photo that makes your office look nice, neat, and clean, for example, when you are going live. But this is, the great thing is this is a feature that is now built into StreamYard. It's not just for the color green. So for example, you've got green screens, but you can also do solid blue colors as well. Just make sure that you don't wear any clothing that is in that, that gamut.
Right. And in this YouTube video, Gage talks about some of those things. And, and I think the other thing people have to think about, it's almost like sometimes people try to get too cute. Right. If your background is too busy, you're going to distract from you as the one that's speaking. And so, I know Ecamm has this feature built in where you can upload green screens, and I know people are excited about, but I think Amanda brings up some excellent points. Just because you have a green screen doesn't make your video better. You got to know what you're doing. And so where right now, right, for $20, I got this background to take away the ugly wall I had, or Amanda's just using her office. You're going to have to buy a green screen for probably $50+ You're going to have to buy additional lighting. So you're looking at a substantial investment to do it right. Where right now, just go live, right? You quit making these excuses like, well, I can't go live because I need a green screen. Well, find a better place to set your video up. And so, yeah, I think it's a great feature. I know Tim, that, from my co-host on the Tim and Jim show, is interested in doing a green screen, but
I mean, they can look amazing. They can look really good. I don't want to put people off either. Yeah. And I think if you get the right background, like an office or a coffee shop, and it's so subtle that people don't really realize you're not there. I mean, they're the incredible ones. Right. So, I don't want to put people off, but yes, you definitely don't need it to go live. Right. Just hide in the back of your office. That's or get a brick wall.
Yeah.
that's
yeah. And I'm definitely looking at using it. I like your idea, Amanda, of even doing something outside where maybe you can, even by like with as an example with StreamYard, you can have multiple cameras in a sense. So maybe you set up your cell phone and you
roving reporter outside. That would be so good. I'm going to do that now. You can't have that idea.
I'm already going to trademark it now. But you can set up some better backgrounds in some places. And so I think if you're really getting into really wanting to up your production value of your lives, I think this is a great tool. But I think, to your point, don't make, I got to get my green screen right, the excuse for not going live. Just get started.
Exactly. You definitely don't need that. I mean, like you said, I mean, you can go and buy a $20 background, put it in the background. Like, it looks good. For example, in your case, like, you have a brick wall. I mean, to me, like I said, that reminds me of Chicago, New York, and so forth. So, make sure you get something that fits your business, for example. Or it could even be something as simple as this. You could take a photo, you could clean up your office, take a photo, and then have it printed on a vinyl background and stick that up in your background. And then that way, like, your office always looks clean. It's less work that you have to do, for example. But it is a lot of additional work when you do have a green screen. It looks fantastic. It can look great. It can look really bad as well, if not done properly. But again, it's not like something that, like, just because I have this now, I can go live. You can go live without it. Just, save yourself some money, set up your office, clean it up, and then just get a nice light. That's really what you need. So, But this is a fantastic feature. And the great thing about this is you can actually, if you get this, if you're on a StreamYard plan, if you go into the settings option, there is a green screen feature now where you basically just click on it. And what that basically will do then is let you turn on the green screen option, and you can replace it with some of the stock backgrounds that they do give you. They have a couple in there, or you can upload your own, something that really fits with your business, but not required. So that's an update from StreamYard this week. So Jim, where are we going next?
Well, I want to see if I can share. I have to try because I actually have to go into the app. I was going to see if I can share Descript with you.
Okay. So we're going to move into. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up some a couple of tool time banners here real quick as Jim's working on some things. So we talked about some social media news topics this week. Obviously, some big updates from IGTV. A couple other updates from Instagram, by the way, we haven't talked about, but we'll put them in the blog post. That's the new effects. So we got Boomerang adding slow-mo and echo and duo. And then also the fact that Instagram is actually testing out direct messaging from the web. Finally, you'll be able to have a couple more features of Instagram on your laptop or your desktop. But we're up to one of my favorite parts of the show. It's tool time, where basically, we bring up 2 tools or sometimes equipment that we think can help you as a business owner. So Jim, you let me know when you're ready, and I'm going to go.
I'm ready. I think I've got it to where you can share the screen into the show.
The first tool we have for you this week is called Descript. I'm going to let Jim tell you about this one because, again, it's something he introduced me to. So, Jim, what's this tool we have for the week?
Yeah, so this is a pretty amazing tool. It's called Descript. And so as you can see to the right here, I have this. Oh, wait a minute. I messed myself up now.
No worries.
Let me go back to. I didn't want to do that.
That's some fun colors we got going on that screen.
Right? All right, I have to do this.
I got to go back
share again.
I want to go, whoa, that's a really cool tool. How did you make that screen work?
What did I do? It doesn't like me. Or did I close it?
Well, Jim.
Okay, I see what I did. All right, I'm good now.
So while Jim is pulling this up, I'll tell you, let's talk about the pain points and what this tool actually does. So, for people that want to edit audio, for example, a lot of times it's a waveform. So if you're listening, for example, say it's a podcast or even this live video, you're listening. And so let's say you get to a point where somebody starts saying and or there's a lot of pauses, a lot of unnecessary silence. Typically, you'll have to hit pause and you'll have to go back and edit the waveform. You'll have to find it on the screen, select that piece, and then make sure it actually fits nicely between the first piece and the second piece after you remove it. So that is a very cumbersome and time-consuming process. So we're all about working smarter, not harder. And so what this tool does, Descript, go ahead, Jim, tell people.
Yes.
What is
it? So what Descript does is I actually was able to upload this video. It's about a 1-minute video that I did at an actual conference.
Okay.
And this transcribed it, as you can see the transcription very quickly. So one of the nice things I like about Descript, and Jeff C., the Manly Pinterest guy, introduced me to this, is the fact that I'm paying a flat fee for 10 hours a month of transcription, right? That's a lot of transcription time. A lot of these other programs that charge you by the minute, they'll even do more if you have some certain projects you want to do. So as I edit this transcription, and this one has been edited, there were some ums and ahs in there. When I cut them out in the text, it cut it out of the video.
Fantastic.
It was seamless. And then it gives me the SRT file if I want to use the SRT file. And as you can see down below, I have that. And I can also go into the transcription and correct spellings within this transcription. So it's kind of one of these nice, it's one-stop shop. People are using this for podcast as well. You can edit your podcast audio if you want to turn it into into something like that. So extremely easy to use, as I like to joke sometimes, so easy a caveman could do it. So I think it's a great tool. And I also, like I said, $14 a month for 10 hours. I think that's just an amazing, amazing price point. as it's an arena that keeps evolving. And not to mention, we had talking with Chrissy Buck a few weeks ago from when she was with Quick. 80% of people are watching video with the sound off. Not to mention, from the accessibility standpoint, all these people that are hearing impaired, they can't hear your video. So you need to think about, how can I serve a broader audience? And this is a great tool for doing that.
Is it machine transcription or is it human transcription?
It's machine transcription.
So it's really depending. I'm very good at machine transcription. It gets me, but I'm like posh in English. So I always like to check to see.
Yes.
But I love the idea of this. Can you actually, so if you had a transcription already, could you upload it here? Or is it just relying on the transcription they're having?
That's a good question. I hadn't tried that, because I've been taking raw video and getting the transcription done as opposed to the other way around. But you can definitely go in and edit it, and then you can export the file as well. So like if you wanted to maybe send it to somebody to maybe give it a second set of eyes on the actual text, it'll let you do that. And then you can also add the stuff back in if you cut it out. But yeah, I just really happy with it. And
I'm just thinking how quick that would be in compared to editing a podcast with lots of ums in, because you could just go and do a search on your computer for all the instances of ums. So you wouldn't even have to look for them. Like you could just cut them out. Save so much time.
Right.
And I'm looking at this like screenshot here. I mean, the things that to me that really stand out. So for example, I talked about the pain points at the beginning, which are normally when you are listening to audio, you don't have the word hello, thank you. Like you don't have all of that above your waveform. You have to actually then find, well, okay, well, where does it start? Where does it end within the software? And at this point, everything is already there. So all I have to do is, I don't have to be like, well, okay, like it starts here and it maybe ends there, but it doesn't really jive with the other. You can clearly see where those parts are, but you edit the text at the top and it will edit what's at the bottom. I think that's a brilliant use of time. I think is a very time-saving tool as well for any kind of editing that you do need to do, whether it is for a podcast or if it's for maybe saying live video and you want to get an SRT file, which basically is a subtitle file. You want to put that, or closed captions. You want to put that on your video because you should be putting those on your videos. This is, I think, a fantastic way to do this. So how much was it, Jim?
$14. Well, they have a free version, but to do the transcriptions, it's $14 a month for 10 hours.
And it's also a downloadable file as well. So you download the file, you install it. So it's not a mobile application or an iPad application. You have to install it. I think that's a great move, though, because then you aren't always reliant on the web as well for all of your connections.
Right.
Fantastic tool, I think. So thanks a lot for bringing that to us this week. So the second tool I want to talk about is it's a live video tool. And this time we're going to talk about some hardware here. So this tool is called the Roland Go Livecast streaming studio for smartphones. So I realize that's a bit of a tongue twister. A lot there, but it is basically, it's geared for this. Like it's geared for the person who wants to do live video, but they primarily want to do it from mobile. I will say this, so don't let the reviews fool you that you see on Amazon. It's a couple of people that might have had like a bad experience. One thing to keep in mind with any sort of mobile, when you're trying to connect one of these devices to your mobile phone, for example, you do have to make sure you use the right cables. A headphone jack on, say, on a computer is not the same as the headphone jack that is on your phone. They use something called TRRS. And basically, you do have to make sure you get the right cabling. If you don't, you're going to get interference. You're going to get very poor or low quality audio. So just keep that in mind. But basically what this does is it helps you be essentially a mobile studio. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. So this is basically, it's this piece of hardware. It connects to your smartphone. And then what you can do is you can bring in things such as jingles into your live broadcast from your mobile device. You can also set up an additional camera. So you could have a tablet and a smartphone as your cameras that you're using, and quickly switch between them by just simply clicking on one of the buttons. So I'm going to go and pull this up so you guys can see this a little bit. So you have your volume fader, you've got your microphone control as well, your mute button, obviously, the ability to switch cameras, and then you can have some different sound effects that are brought in. And then you can also bring in some additional multimedia components, such as a photo or a video, or you can actually pull in some text. And right now it is pretty basic text that you pull in, but this device, it's not terribly big. Basically, it's a little bit bigger than your smartphone, and you connect it to your phone, and now you can actually add some additional production value to your smartphone. Have either of you used this product yet? I know we have one on the way.
I have not, but Tim Sohn from my co-host on the Tim and Jim show actually did, and it's pretty interesting to see how it worked. He did kind of a quick experiment with it. Somehow he, as you said, he got one a lot quicker than a lot of people, and it definitely has promise, I think, especially for events. If you want to use a phone at an event as your live stream, it really gives you a chance to do some production value, and it's good to see. I see that Ross Brand has joined us, and he was one of the folks that he talked about that. I think it was at the Consumer Electronics Show, and so it's good to see Ross out there talking about this as well. And I think it's definitely got a lot of promise.
I've got one on the way. I think it'll be here this week or maybe next week's show. I will say this. I mean, going back to the live streaming thing as well, like you don't need this tool to go live. It's a way to increase the production value that you already offer your viewers. So if you're somebody that if you're, for instance, primarily on a desktop, you don't necessarily need this tool. Like it's for a mobile user. So, you want to make sure that the experience that you give your viewers, for example, if I'm using the mobile device, I want to make sure that, my mobile and my desktop look very similar to, like each and every week of my show. So I think that's really important. What do you think, by the way, Amanda, about this?
Well, I want one. I don't know how much I'd use it, but I'd want one because I rarely go live from mobile. I loved, actually, you showed the side there. It looks like you can plug in a proper decent microphone. Yeah, like a proper, not a USB one.
Yeah, you get
yeah.
Yep.
So that's good because I don't know how else you could plug one of those into your phone. No, to get that good quality. So I've got a really nice microphone over here which uses one of those connectors. So that's impressive for a start. You're already going to get better sound. Mm-hmm. And I guess for you, Jim, if you were doing things at social media marketing world, I don't know how you shoot those at the moment. Do you set up a laptop or this would be so much easier, right?
Well, and I think, that's true. But I think where I can see the value in this is, as an example, maybe some of these folks that want to do live videos where they're cooking, right? Or they're doing something on a countertop. You don't always have the room to take your laptop or your computer and try to set the camera up in such a way. This really is a great feature for, because then, as an example, some of these things, it'll throw in a screen, right? So you guys and it could even be, I think, almost like a short video. I think when Tim was playing with it. So that could be when they're going to the refrigerator to grab another ingredient or something. So I definitely see some value for some specific types of live video shows. And, so yeah.
Definitely for mobile journalism, I think, it's going to be, I can imagine we have a conference here every year on it. I can imagine it, if it ships to Ireland, I'll have to find out. It will be big. It'll be big at that conference this year. I usually buy things that are recommended there.
So here's the thing. It's $250. Here, and actually, let me see if I can play this. Let me see if I can play this Amazon video here as well. So you could plug in an XLR mic. So let's see. Yeah, it looks like Amazon's going to be a little slow there. But you can plug in an XLR mic. That's going to immediately improve the quality of your sound. If you want to then, for instance, pull in a couple of sound effects, you could do that directly from the Roland as well. And then overall, like I said, it has some rudimentary things you can pull in directly for some text. It's not great at the moment, but it does work for certain applications. Like, for example, for this show, it probably wouldn't work very well because we want to do a lot of screen sharing. We can't really do that. If you're doing, as Jen mentioned, a cooking show, works great for that because you do have the multiple cameras, the ability to switch from, a facing camera to a side camera, for example, if you're doing everything on your own. And overall, I mean, like I said, it's $250. It's worth testing out, I think, to see if it works for you, as in your business. If you have questions on it, I'm happy to answer them. Jem, I know you probably are too. And then Amanda, I didn't realize you had a background in some production there. So
somebody can send me one as a gift from Roland if you're listening.
It's a cool device. Very cool device. We'll have one, like I said, probably next week. But
cool.
And I think this is just the start, right? I think you're going to start to see more of this because I will say, and I think we've talked about it, several times, Christian, as well as as much as people want to use their mobile device as their, for lack of a better term, their studio, there's just limitations that you get that you don't have when you're using a computer. As an example, right? You could be sharing viewer comments. Well, how are you going to be doing all that on your phone? And then you end up moving the camera angle. So I definitely think this has an application. I think as the technology advances, I could see even, more of this occurring.
Definitely. We've all said, I think one of the products we've highlighted a lot, we've highlighted the Stream Deck as well on the show before, and that, for example, it's a different product than the Roland Go Livecast. So for example, what the Stream Deck does basically is the Stream Deck is more of a macro-based tool. So I can, for instance, quickly open programs on a laptop. I can, change my name on my Twitter channel or send out a tweet, for example, with the press of a button, versus like right now, it's not controlling angles for the show or microphones or things like that, even though it can do some of that stuff. Whereas this is a device and that device, for example, does not connect directly to a smartphone, whereas the Roland Go Livecast, it actually is geared towards a smartphone. It's not geared to connect to a laptop. So just kind of going through what some of the connections are here that are on this device, actually on the back of it. So we've got a power. So it does need, for example, it needs an external battery to be able to plug in to give this thing some power. I'd recommend like a 10,000 milliamp or more battery. And then you also then connect to your smartphone. It looks like it's via micro USB. I kind of wish that was USB-C, but micro USB, which will then connect to iOS or Android devices. So it does work with both, but pretty cool device, I think. So anything y'all want to add on that one, by the way?
No,
I think, yeah.
No.
Looking forward to hearing what you think though when you get it.
Yes. I'm excited for it. Again, I love technology, love gadgets, and figuring out how to help a business implement them immediately. So Jim, you and I had to talk about this a lot in it.
Right.
So
it's one of Christian's faults. But you gotta try it.
And we love being able to like figure out how they can actually help us move things forward. Kind of as Amanda mentioned, like she likes to take the pieces that people might have in a business and like, how do you weave them together, and help them, produce something. So I think that's great. But Amanda, I want to thank you, by the way, so much for being a guest on this week's show, bringing all of your knowledge. Loved all the talk about green screens and like how people can go about setting those up and why they should set them up. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. What's the best way, by the way, for people to get in touch with you? I think you mentioned it maybe at the beginning, but just in case people tuning in.
I am spider working everywhere. So my website is spiderworking.com and I'm at spiderworking on all social. So that's it. It's easy to remember. If you can remember like a spider pulling together those threads, working away, that's who I am.
You're spider working on every channel. Perfect. So make sure, you connect with Amanda, follow her on her social channels as well. If you have any questions on anything. And don't forget, we do have a blog post recap going out tomorrow or over the weekend, socialchef.com/SC225. This is episode 225. Jen, got to say, been an absolute pleasure having you all on this week. Who do we have next?
Thank you for having us.
And we have another show next week. next Thursday, right? 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have Mr. Ryan Boyles on. He's a colleague, actually, I used to work with at IBM. Really excited to have him on as well. Had some good chats with him back in December over the holidays. So I'm excited to have him join us next Thursday. That'll be on Facebook or YouTube at Social Chefs. But any last thoughts you want to share with viewers, Amanda? Any tip that you want to give them? Any advice?
Whoa. I suppose my big thing this year is we kind of touched on it before, talking about content and actually everything that you do. I think the time has gone where you just had to think, oh, I have to post something on social media today. You have to be thoughtful and intentional about what you're posting and know what reason you're doing it for. And that goes for your blog, your live streaming show, your YouTube channel, or anything that you're doing on social.
Very cool. That's great advice. Jim, any thoughts you want to share with
viewers?
It
was great to actually finally be live with Amanda. I know we talked about it briefly last year, and time gets past us and it's like, oh my gosh. So Amanda, look forward to seeing you in person again soon.
In somewhere warm.
Yes, it better be warm. and looking forward to the show next week, Christian. That should be a lot of fun.
Definitely. So for those of you who've joined us on our live show, as I mentioned, we'll have the blog post recap going out over the weekend. If you're listening to the podcast as well, feel free to jump over to socialchefs.com/SC225 to get all the to look at all the topics, or to click on some of the tools and whatnot, check those things out, or to ask us any questions you might have. With that, we will see you all next Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But thanks a lot for tuning in, and it's good to be back. So thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.